All right, gentlemen, we're live. Welcome everybody to the Untold History Channel. Happy April Fool's Day. It's not April Fool's. We actually have Sheriff Mack with us today, and I am joined by my good friends Douglas V Gibbs and the war hamster rodent himself, Brady. And we are going to be discussing today the sheriff that decided to buck the system and challenge the government, especially with firearms and whatnot. And we're gonna find out about Sheriff Mack's victory at the Supreme Court. So, Sheriff Mack, how are you this morning?
Well, I'm doing great. This is one of my favorite holidays. It fits me and my family perfectly.
Me too. I just want to say this. I know Doug and Brady are they like firearms, but I'm a firearms guy. I did gun shows for like almost 10 years, and I know, and like probably I want to say at least 27 states.
That's how we met. Matter of fact, was a gun show. Of course, I was at the gun show, but I was selling constitutional paraphernalia. But
so I'm a gun guy, and I'm very, very up on gun stuff and firearms related stuff. So, but that's these two gentlemen know the Constitution, and they know theoretically what is accurate, and what should be applied. So I think this is going to be a fun discussion. This is going to be a very fun discussion.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I would expect nothing less.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit of your story and what happened and how this all came about?
Okay, and I'm going to try to keep that short. And first of all, I started my police career in Provo, Utah, and I was working my way through college. I was going to BYU, and I tried to get in the FBI. My dad retired from the FBI in 1975, and I thought of his 5 sons, one should follow his footsteps, and so I was trying to do that. And it didn't work out, but I got a part-time job at Provo Police Department as a meter maid. And the official term for meter maid is parking enforcement cadet. And I went around marking tires and everything. It was so stupid. And anyway, I had to repent for all those tickets that I wrote to people because I became a great revenue agent for the city of Provo.
A pirate.
Yeah, right. And so I graduated in 78, and then I became a full-time police officer, and I thought that would make me more attractive to the FBI. And still, it never worked out with the FBI. So I stayed with Provo Police for 11 and a half years, and I did everything in law enforcement imaginable. I became front desk sergeant, patrol sergeant, corporal, detective, school resource officer. But I never shot anybody, and I never beat anybody up, ever.
Undercover?
And an undercover assignment for a year, which changed my life because I lived in the drug culture. I changed my name. I couldn't go home very often. Couldn't be seen in public with my wife and kids. We had 3 little kids at the time. And it was I hated every minute of it, but I learned a lot. And it's where I came to the conclusion that the drug war is nothing but a farce and a big overreach for big brother government. Yeah. But that's a topic for another day. Anybody ever wants to get into a drug legalization battle or debate with me? Come on, I'll take you on anytime. But
isn't it amazing that every time the government declares war on something, we end up getting more of it?
You get more every time. Well, the laws of prohibition do that automatically.
Yeah. Well, it's we don't have counter drug programs. We have count the drug programs.
Yeah. So anyway, my undercover assignment was 1982, and I'd been a cop for 2.5 years when they asked me to do that. So I had to really change my identity as best I could. Anyway, after that, I started getting promoted big time because the operation was very good. Brought in a lot of numbers. That's what they wanted. And so in 1983, I had an epiphany happen while I was writing a lady a ticket. And I really was touched by what I was doing wrong and treating people like this and gouging them with these excessive fines and bail that are illegal per the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights. And so after that epiphany, I decided that I was going to find out why we are doing this, why we have police, why we have government. And I started checking that, and I started studying. And then a seminar was announced by the state of Utah, the Constitution for Law Enforcement. And the teacher, the instructor, was someone who used to work in the FBI with my father, Dr. W. Cleon Skousen. And I went to the class, and I was converted to the Constitution in that 16 hours. It was police training to learn about our oath of office and the Constitution. And there was 240 cops there. I don't know what happened to the other 239, but I was totally touched and blessed with a conversion to the United States Constitution, to our foundation, to our founding fathers. And I there was no going back after that. And I took another oath while I was sitting in that classroom. I said to myself, I will never be on the wrong side again. And so
I wonder how many, I wonder how well Cleon Skousen would survive in today's climate.
Not well. Yeah, and I didn't either. And so anyway, pursuant to my conversion to the Constitution, I got this reputation as, the constitutional cop. I actually loved it. But anyway, in 1987, 1988, my wife and I got noticed from her parents that I had to move home to Arizona, to where both my wife and I were from, and run for Graham County Sheriff in my hometown. Neither one of my wife wanted to do that. We told them they were crazy. Leave me alone. I'm not coming home. I will consider that in 9 years when I retire from here, and then go do something else. Oh no, we're going to have a horrible sheriff if you don't get home. To make a very long story short, my mother-in-law didn't know the meaning of the word no. And my wife and I had an epiphany together the same day, and we looked at each other and said, we're moving home to run for sheriff. And we still didn't want to do it, but the message was loud and clear that that's what we were supposed to do. And so we moved home, ran for sheriff, hadn't lived there for 12 years. Very miraculous election. I won. And then in 1992, I was reelected. And in 1994, in late 1993, my wife and I saw Bill Clinton signing the Brady Bill into law. And I didn't really pay much attention to it, but Bill Clinton was very Clinton-esque, and he said this: the Brady Bill will make America so safe that even our police won't need to carry guns anymore. Isn't that great? Yeah, I love that. And so we just laughed at that and just went on, but I still didn't pay any attention to the Brady Bill until January 21st, 1994. And we were having a Sheriff's Association meeting in Phoenix. There was only 15 counties in Arizona, and 13 sheriffs were at this meeting. The two most liberal hardly ever came to it for some reason. I don't know why, but Pima County Sheriff and Santa Cruz County Sheriff, they hardly ever came to any meetings.
Well, at least Yavapai came.
Oh, have a what?
Yavapai.
Oh, Yavapai. Oh, yeah, they always came. Yeah. So Yavapai and Coconino, great sheriffs. So
I'm a Yavapai because I'm in Yavapai.
Oh, okay. Well, so you Prescott, so 3 agents of the BATF were at that meeting, and we're going, what's going on? But they showed us really quickly. They handed us a 25-page document detailing what we had to do to enforce the Brady Bill for them for free, with a threat of arrest if we failed to comply.
Wow.
And as we go into the case, I'll show you the threat of arrest. But there's no question that we were threatened with arrest. 1 year in prison, a $10,000 fine, or both. And so this is absolutely absurd. And every sheriff in the meeting was cussing up a storm. I mean, except for the Coconino County Sheriff. He was a real solid Christian. And I wasn't saying anything. And I don't throw F-bombs, but about half the sheriffs were throwing them big time. And the BATF kind of just tiptoed out because they knew how ticked off we were. And then we had a lot of discussion. And at the end of the day, all of them acquiesced except for me. And I said, you guys have already convinced me. I was the youngest sheriff in the state. I wasn't pushing my weight around. I just said, you guys have totally convinced me we shouldn't be doing this. And I'm not going to do it. You know, and they just shrugged their shoulders at me and we went on. But I had a 2.5 hour drive back home. And I was brooding about this whole thing. Really, I mean, I was just really ate up with it. I'm not going to do it, but what if I get arrested? And so what's this going to do to my career? What's it going to do to, you know, am I going to have to quit to get out from underneath this? And I didn't have any idea what I was going to do. When I pulled up in my driveway, it hit me. You're going to sue the federal government. I mean, and it was very powerful. Now, look, I consider myself a pretty religious guy, and I pray quite often. Okay. And I'm a Christian, and I do not get messages from on high on a daily or monthly or weekly, monthly, or even yearly basis. I do not. I would say that maybe I could count on one hand how many times that happened to me like this in my life, in my entire life. And this is one time when I was supposed to run and that what I was supposed to do about the Brady Bill. And so I went in the house, told my wife that I'm going to sue the federal government, but I had to get her endorsement. There's no way I could do this without her. And she said, maybe now we know why you were supposed to be sheriff, because it was such a miracle that we got elected in the first place. And so anyway, it really touched me that she said that. And my mom said it 2 days later when I told her what I was planning to do here. So I contacted the NRA. This is, again, making a long story very short, a very miraculous story short, because I wasn't a member of the NRA. I wasn't into guns. I wasn't like you. I wasn't into guns. I never owned a gun until I was elected sheriff. Mm-hmm. When I worked at Provo PD, it was a department issue gun. When I left there, I turned it in. And so the first gun I ever owned was 1988 when I was elected sheriff. And it was a Sig Sauer, a nice gun. Really liked it. But
product.
So anyway, where am I? So, I called the NRA and I said, I don't know what to do. I told them who I was, what I wanted to do. I told them I wasn't a member. And I was speaking now with an attorney for the NRA, and his name was Richard Gardner. So I told him I wanted to sue him and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, the next line out of his mouth changed my life forever. And he said, Sheriff, we've already been preparing the paperwork on this case, and we've been praying that you would call. And I said, you don't even know me. I'm not even a member. He goes, we needed a sheriff, and you're the first one to call, and we're ready to go. And I told him that I wanted my own lawyer, and he recommended a lawyer. I said, I don't want to offend you, but they're going to pay for this whole thing, which was a godsend. Mm. And so they recommended a lawyer in Tucson that used to work for the NRA. I hired him as my personal lawyer on this case. 6 other sheriffs joined us in the lawsuit. Sheriff Prince from Montana was second to file, but I was completely alone for about 6-7 weeks before Prince filed. And
Did he file? Did he know about your filing?
Oh yeah. He never called me, but he did call the NRA, and he was very involved with the NRA.
Okay.
And so he called the NRA too, and they sure, we got you. I was the only one that hired my own lawyer.
I guess the question I'm asking is did he call the NRA because he knew that somebody else had filed, and so now he's going to piggyback on? So it wasn't like an initiative thing. It was like, okay, now somebody's done it. Now I can.
Correct. That's about what he did, and he and I are still good friends. He's kind of getting up there in years. He's a little bit older than I am, and his health isn't that great. But my health isn't that great either. So Sheriff Prince was second from Montana. After that, I'm not sure the order, but geographically, then Sheriff Coog filed from Texas, Sheriff Romero from Louisiana, Sheriff McGee from Mississippi, Sheriff Frank from Vermont, and Sheriff Anders from Wyoming. So there were 7 of us. And there's 3,086 sheriffs, and all of them got the same orders that we did from the BATF. 7 out of 3,086 did this. And what I don't get is only 1 from Texas. There's 254 sheriffs in the state of independence, and only 1, Sheriff Coog from Valverde County, Del Rio, Texas.
Can I ask you a question? And I want to ask you, this is based on observation, because I've lived in Arizona I lived in Arizona for a long time, and I've got, I know a lot of people in Texas, and a lot of people say that Texas is the, it's this place of independence, but I kind of feel like people in Arizona have a very congruent and underrated Texas style attitude about them.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, leave us alone. Don't tell us what to do, except Texas is suffering from the same thing that Arizona is suffering from. And that is, we have woke Democrats we keep trying to put into office, and we do. And right now our state is run pretty much about 80% of the major offices in the state are all run by Democrats, and pretty crazy woke ones as well.
And you got some pretty bad Republicans pretending to be conservatives. But I just want to throw out
right, and then we have rhinos to deal with.
I was born in Del Rio, Texas, so I'm very proud of my sheriff.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Did you know Sheriff Coog?
No, I left there when I was about 2 years old. So
well, he's passed away, and I don't know about the others. I don't know. I know that Romero is a state legislator, and Frank is retired, and last time I talked to him was about 3 years ago. Sheriff Coog and Sheriff Prince and I are the only ones that really keep in touch, and I'm the only one that keeps the case going. And it's the foundation of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association that I formed in 2011. And it's a lot. It's the basis of the training that I present to public officials and sheriffs nationwide, because it reinforces everything that we believe that sheriff should be, that what a constitutional sheriff is. And this case is extremely powerful. It's the most powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of our country. States' rights, state sovereignty, and local autonomy. That is what this case is about. And that's why I want everybody to see it. It's the most hidden case and covered up Supreme Court case in the history of our country. And by the way, historical fact with the Supreme Court. In their term, when they do cases, when they take on cases, and when they granted certiorari on this case, that was another miracle, because Prince and I got overturned at the Ninth Circuit, which is the worst circuit in the entire country.
The Ninth Circus.
The liberal.
The Ninth Circuit.
Yeah. And then Coog and Romero were in the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans. And they got the opposite ruling. And they shook their finger at the Ninth Circuit, said, "You got this all wrong." So we had 2 opposite rulings on the same case.
Wow.
And so my lawyer said, that's going to guarantee us a trip to the Supreme Court.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so when the Supreme Court granted certiorari, it was one of the happiest days of my life. And indeed, several of the sheriffs came to that event. I think there was 1 or 2 that didn't show. I don't think Coog was there. But anyway, I took a picture with Prince, me, our attorneys, and Frank, Sheriff Frank from Vermont. And so I have that picture. I probably should have sent it to you so we could put it up. But we don't. I don't want to do show and tell as much as I want to really just show the case.
Sure.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
Well, Sheriff Mack, one of the things that I've noticed, because you said it doesn't really get a lot of time out there, people don't notice it, but yet the concept has been kind of adopted by the opposition. And I wanted to hear your thoughts about this when it comes to the immigration issue. because really the point of your case is that the federal government cannot force local sheriffs to do their job.
Right.
Okay. Yet that's the argument when it comes to immigration is the federal government's trying to force local law enforcement to do their job. And when in reality, that's not what it is. It's a request for cooperation and coordination.
Yeah. And I've talked to Tom Homan about that. And I sat down with him and I said, you can't force. And he said, of course I can't. No one's trying to force any of the sheriffs to do this. And I was the first one to say that as well as Tom Homan. They do want cooperation. And we put that out there to all the sheriffs we could too. Everyone should be cooperating with us. What sheriff in this country would be doing his job and not wanting and trying and doing his best to get rid of these criminals that the Democrat Party and the Biden administration brought in? I mean, we're talking about the worst enemies of America, the cartels, the gangs, the terrorists, and the sleeper cells that now exist all over our country with terrorists. They're here.
Well, so, I'd argue that it's not the Biden administration. I'd argue that it was the Bush and the Obama administrations before, in conjunction.
No question.
In tandem with the war on terror.
Yeah, of course.
War on terror was essentially a training school for all the terrorists to come here and use their skills that they learned in the war on terror.
Yeah, Biden was just the icing on the cake to make sure that it happened completely and entirely. And you're right.
But I'm sorry, I don't mean to say this, but that's how I knew that the war on terror was a fraud when they left when they left both borders porous.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So if you'll go back to the decision,
okay,
and we've actually changed the name of the decision or that booklet, and we made a couple of revisions, so they're not in the same order. But this is the current version.
Okay.
And it says Supreme Court case for state sovereignty. So it's pretty still simple and similar. So I wanted to go through that one because that's the one we sent you. That's the only one we had on digital, but it's 99% the same. So the order isn't exactly the same as the other one. So yeah, right there, stop right there. So I want everybody to understand some basic foundation here. I've given you the reasons why I decided I had to do this. One, it was to protect the office of sheriff. And two, it was to protect the Second Amendment. Because the Brady Bill was indeed a gun control law. And it modified, in fact, in this decision, Scalia even says it modified the Gun Control Act of 1968 that was promulgated pursuant to all the assassinations in the 60s, JFK, RFK, and MLK. And so we got to do something. So, of course, they enact an illegal law and went forward with it. But it had no impact on gun control, really, or crime. No gun control law in the country of 20,000 that we have has ever reduced crime. And I hate to offend all the Democrats that think that's opposite, but
I don't hate to offend them. Go ahead.
It's a lie. Yeah, it's a lie. Yeah. So the first one, this is a quote from Madison, and this really applies to this case. But this is one quote that Scalia didn't provide. But I want to tell everyone in this country right now, Scalia takes us through a history lesson. And he even says that's what he's going to do in his introduction of the case when he's authoring this decision and when he presented it. So he quotes several times the Federalist Papers. Now, tell me the last time a Supreme Court case did that. This is an extremely powerful history lesson. This is a quote that really applies to this case big time. We can safely rely on the disposition of state legislatures to erect barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. Right there, that is factual, that the states are supposed to be the buffer between the people and the federal government encroachments. And now what's happened is the states completely go along with whoever is in political power. So the Democrats that are now in power in Arizona are fighting everything that Trump is doing because that's the agenda for the Democrat Party.
That's right.
And so they have to go along. So state sovereignty and states standing up for truth and the Constitution are pretty much dead.
And if I may, Sheriff, because this is a crucial component, and I know Brady hammers on this a lot, and I know Doug also hammers on this. One probably more so than the other on each individual one, but that's the 17th Amendment and the Reynolds v. Sims cases.
Of course.
And those have a tremendous impact on the layout and the makeup of the legislative bodies that are actually enacting the laws.
Right.
Well, Ron, let me just add that there's another amendment in play here, and that's the 14th because of incorporation.
Right.
And which was never intended in the 14th Amendment. We could spend the next 90 minutes talking about that alone. We probably should do a show on incorporation, but that's absolutely in play.
Okay.
And that's important because incorporation then flies in the face of the enumeration doctrine. Enumeration doctrine, of course, expressly enumerated.
Right.
And not only are gun laws not expressly enumerated in the Constitution, and as we know, the Second Amendment shall not be infringed, which tells us on its face, and this is more for the audience, you guys. I know you guys know this. Is that means that every single federal gun law is unconstitutional, every last one of them.
The federal government has no skin in the game with the Second Amendment except to guarantee it. That's it.
Well, and it's we could go on to the history lesson about that, but to your point, basically every single law that has ever come on the books has all been following a calamity. The NFA was as a result of the Valentine's Day massacre. The 68 GCA was as a result of all of the like you said, the assassinations of Kennedy and MLK. And then you had I think it was the Thompson? Thompson was after the Brady, or they would kind of happen kind of side by side, or I don't remember exactly. But one was the regular essentially you couldn't do the no more full autos.
There was the McDonald case out of Chicago was a good one, and Heller case out of Washington D.C. Those were pretty good ones, but they still don't enforce them, and there's very little enforcement there. In fact, virtually no enforcement in my case by the United States Congress, because it diminishes their power, diminishes their corruption. If this were actually enforced to the letter. So, and then I want everyone to know, this was all based on the 10th Amendment. We did not file on the Second Amendment. In fact, we tried. I was really disappointed when the NRA lawyers told me we don't have any standing on the Second Amendment. I said, well, you're the NRA. What are we doing? He said, we're filing on the 10th Amendment. And I said, states' rights? And he goes, yes. The federal government has no authority to tell you or any other sheriff what to do. And that came up. And I smiled real big and said, great. So this was a 10th Amendment case to save the Second Amendment.
And that's why I got so mad a couple of years ago when New Mexico's governor tried to create some new gun laws, and all the Second Amendment people out of Colorado, they sued on a Second Amendment basis. I go, no, you got to go after these emergency powers and, to go back to states' rights. And that's how you beat them. And they didn't.
And Sheriff, what was it, Jones from Albuquerque, from Bernalillo County, he came out with the chief of police in Albuquerque and the AG of the state telling Governor Grisham that she was out to lunch and that there was no way. All three Democrats. And I called Sheriff Jones and told him we wanted to give him an award. He said, no, I don't want any awards. I said, well, this is fantastic that you're doing your job like this. Because he said, we are not going to enforce it. It's unenforceable. It's unconstitutional, Governor. So that's exactly what we want from sheriffs nationwide. Right. Stand for your oath. Stand for the Constitution. So here's the paraphrase form of the 10th Amendment. And people need to understand the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Shows how powerful the states are, but it also shows how powerful the people are. And we, the people, the first three words of the Constitution, this is our government We need to take charge, and we need to be working with sheriffs nationwide if we're going to erect those barriers that Madison warned us about. Okay, let's go to the first page. Yeah. Okay.
By the way, I got it wrong. It was the Hughes Amendment, not the Thompson. I'm thinking Thompson machine gun.
Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. All right. And so I spent days after this decision came out. I spent days putting this together. So I studied the case and I put all the highlights in this little booklet so to save people time. The place I found the best review was Cornell University Law School. And they gave comments from every justice on the Supreme Court at the time. And at the end of the book, I put what the dissenting four judges said. And that was from Stevens. Stevens wrote it for the four of them. So it was a 5-4 split. We barely won. That doesn't change the impact. It's still just as strong as it was if it was unanimous.
A win is a win.
A win is a win, and that's right. You know, I never cared in baseball if we won by 1 or 10. You know, but we don't really need to go over the forward. I already gave the background on that, so let's keep going. And wait, go back. The bold part. The go keep no the other way. Right there in bold, right there. Now this part happened in the district court case, and District Judge John Roll said this in court in his decision. This is very powerful. Mack is thus forced to choose between keeping his oath or obeying the law, and he didn't call it the law, and that's good because it was not law. If you look at law, it has to be constitutional to be called a law, and it wasn't, obviously. So he calls it the act. Subjecting himself to possible sanctions, and the sanctions were what I told you earlier. We were threatened with arrest. So I wanted to give that shout out to Judge John Roll, who, by the way, was shot and killed at the Safeway parking lot when Gabby Giffords was shot. And this man was a very strong judge, and
wow,
Obama didn't like him.
Wow,
I know, this is huge.
Wow, man, that's just
so. This man interposed for me several times, and every pretrial motion to get me out of the case, we won. He stood by me. This judge stood by me all the way to the end, and until he was taken out. So,
Sheriff, I just got to say, the conspiratorial mind in me is going. And
of course,
it's like he was the target, and Giffords was the target to be maimed, but
right.
but left living, and he was the target. Is how I see that.
A lot of people have said that.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, keep going. Scroll down. And,
I mean, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's
that's a legitimate thesis, though. Okay, so the issue was, and I already told everybody the issue. Federal government's trying to force sheriffs to enforce federal law, and right there. There's the threat of arrest under a separate provision of the GCA, the Gun Control Act of 1968. Any person who knowingly violates the section of the GCA amended by the Brady Act shall be fined under this title, imprisoned for no more than 1 year, or both.
924.85.
So just so everybody knows, we were definitely threatened. Yeah. So the founders, they brought up why they brought this up in the first place was again, Scalia is taking us through a history lesson, and he talks about it down at the bottom. Scroll down just a little bit more. And this is something right there. Down at the last sentence in italics, Publius and Brutus were named some of the founding fathers used to protect their anonymity. So just so you know, that the founding fathers were using fake names and anyway, they had fear of repercussions. Exactly. they feared for their lives. And then later, when they did the Declaration of Independence, obviously they didn't use these names anymore.
And this is after the revolution.
Oh, yes, very much so.
After the revolution, not during. So
correct.
That's an important distinction.
Correct.
A lot of people knew that they were probably the writers, but nobody knew for sure until the list of them was found in Hamilton's desk after he died. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
And we still don't know for certain most of the Anti-Federalist Papers authors. We got a pretty good idea, but some of them are just one of these three people. So,
Okay. So now the other case that was hidden, I never heard of this case until my case came out, and that's New York v. U.S. And lots of times you'll hear, especially leftist attorneys, but county attorneys and politicians in Washington, D.C. and other experts, professors and whatnot, say that there's no Supreme Court case. All Supreme Court cases that have ever gone to the court about federalism and the division of powers between the federal government all say that the federal government has supremacy. Lie. Here's another case that said the federal government does not have supremacy. And their quote, "We have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction." Folks, do you know how powerful that is? Don't you wish your state legislature knew they were not subject to federal direction? We're not. And the state legislatures have got to know that. But because of politics and going along with their party dogma and agendas, that has been obliterated.
yeah, I might live in one of the only states that actually is standing up for that here in New Hampshire. And that's just absolutely a function of the Free State Project. We actually are. I've seen more bills passed with towards freedom in this state. I've been here than my entire life.
Well, and this is something that a question comes up. Well, and Scalia addresses this later on. Well, if the state legislature is not subject to federal direction, then we can go directly to the sheriff because he is. How about the county commissioners? How about that legislature? Those are all political subdivisions of the state. And no one in the state. This really means it should have just said the states are not subject to federal direction. It would change the meaning. It wouldn't change the meaning at all, but it would kind of just make it more clear. No one in the state, no mayor, no governor, no one is subject to federal direction. And so why is it that they own so much of the land in Arizona? Why? That's our land. That's Arizona. And like 65% of the land in Arizona supposedly is federal.
All right, in fact, my friend Alan Myers is doing a lot of work on the federal land grab. I should put him in touch with you, Sheriff Mack.
Tell him.
But I mean, west of Colorado isn't like the vast majority of land.
Over a third. Over a third of the West is owned by the federal government, supposedly, and Nevada is 90%.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Keep going.
I have a question. I don't want to challenge you, but we have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal jurisdiction. Isn't that kind of the same thing in what you said in terms of like it's applicable to all of them?
Of course.
Yeah.
All states.
Maybe I misheard you.
This was not an Arizona case. This was a national case.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Where to next?
Keep going. Okay, wait a minute. And we'll just read that one real quickly. He reinforces that. No, right there. Stay where you are in bold. The federal government, we held, may not compel the states to enact or administer a federal regulatory program. What would that do to COVID-19 if we knew and understood that? Okay, keep going. And so, federal grants, real quickly, he just said, no, the states have to do what they're told. And Scalia says, no, that they're just trying to get federal grants. And in order to get federal grant, they have to do what the grant says to do. That's why I told everybody, I never put in for a federal grant. I trained all our cops and sheriffs, do not take federal lucre. Do not take federal grants, because whoever pays you is your boss. And you got and owns you. Yeah. So
And I know I've had this discussion with Brady and with Doug multiple times, but when they created the Federal Reserve, it essentially reversed the flow of money from the states into the federal government, to the federal government out to the states. And now almost all the states are like, well, we need federal money. We need federal money. We need federal money.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think a lot of this stuff is coming from. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, but it's still money from the states and the people in the states that funds the federal government. If we stopped, that would be one of the great ways to bring the federal government to its knees. So right there, just at state sovereignty, that first line is very important. It is incontestable that the Constitution established a system of dual sovereignty. Yeah. Federalist 39. Okay. And then right there in bold, let's just start with that first line in that one. Residual state sovereignty was also implicit, of course, in the Constitution's conferral upon Congress of not all governmental powers. Well, what kind do they have then? And this is what you brought up earlier, but only discrete enumerated ones. Wow. Which stays that way if we enforce the 10th Amendment. And then he quotes the 10th Amendment. So look, now he's quoting the Constitution. He's quoting the Founding Fathers. He's quoting the Federalist Papers. And wow, this is a great history lesson. Thank you, Justice Scalia. So keep going.
And this is important. Doug, real quick, define enumerated, because I think that's an important distinction, I think.
Well, it's simply listed, and it has to be expressly enumerated. Unfortunately, because of Hamilton, we've got this idea of implied powers,
Right.
And that's not what was intended. It needs to be expressly enumerated. If it's not expressly there, it's not a federal authority. In the conversation,
when it's expressly enumerated, that just essentially means it's
listed. It is there, and it's clearly there. Yeah,
it's very specific as to what it is, and there's zero ambiguity.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a narrow interpretation rather than the broad interpretation that you see today.
Correct.
That's one of the questions that gets asked to me all the time. If we ever had an Article 5 convention, what would you like to see changed? And one of the things I always throw out there in the first three is you would want to actually enumerate the enumeration doctrine in the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, and putting it in simple terms, enumerate means you can number them. You can go through the Constitution and list every single right, every single power that they have delegated to them by the states. By the states. Okay.
That's pretty much what the 10th Amendment does say, but
exactly. It does. And so, okay. Okay, right there. Right, the last sentence right there, we're right under 514 U.S. 779. The Constitution. Yeah. The Constitution thus contemplates that a state's government will represent and remain accountable to its own citizens. Wow. And then the whole next paragraph, we want to hear what Madison said to reinforce that. And can you guys read this?
Yes. As Madison,
okay. Madison, somebody else read it. Somebody else read it for me.
Okay. As Madison expressed it, the local or municipal authorities form distinct and independent portions of the supremacy. More.
You mean the federal government doesn't have total supremacy? We share it with them? Wow. Keep going.
No more subject within their respective spheres to the general authority than the general authority is subject to them within its own sphere.
Federalist 39.
And I can't remember, Sheriff Mack, if you have Federalist number 45 in your booklet, or it's been a while since I've read it. I actually did not get a chance to read it right before the show. But Madison's also clear in Federalist paper 45. The federal government has few and defined powers. The powers that the states have are numerous and indefinite.
Correct.
What's missing? What's missing from all that is the asterisk that says none of this applies in the case of an emergency to which we declare.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, Scalia clarifies that pretty soon too. And this is the whole thing is going to blow you away. Yeah. Okay, so right here, Look at this next line in the next paragraph, just the first line. This separation of the two spheres is one of the Constitution's structural protections of liberty. Structural protection of liberty, that the federal government follows and obeys the enumerated powers. And we have completely obliterated that. And politicians and corruption have completely destroyed that principle of liberty. That structural protection of liberty has been pretty much destroyed by our Republicans and Democrats.
Shifting baselines, as I said yesterday.
And Sheriff, can I add on to that? It's not just the Republicans and the Democrats. It's also the school system. It's also the education system that has trained Americans to be more of a federal minded.
Right. Of course. No question.
We don't think in terms of think locally, act locally. We don't think in terms of the importance of the local jurisdiction, school board, county supervisors, city councils, state legislatures. We don't think about that. We always think, we now in 2025 or 26, we just have this thing. Oh, well, all we got to do is get the right president in there, and then we get as though we're a dictatorship. And that's the simplicity. That's the simple-mindedness of Americans that has occurred over the last 150 or so years.
Well, when the shifting baselines, it becomes normalized, and so everybody, of course, is okay with it, which then opens up the opportunity to shift even more. Because once you get to that normalization, then you add a little more, you normalize there, you add a little bit more. I mean, that's how they operate. Right. It's the gradual creeping incrementalism.
Right.
And you've got a
baby this year. Exactly. And that's part of my presentation.
The point I wanted to make there is that basically is congruent with what you said earlier when you talked about how all of the state legislatures, and especially in Arizona and in Texas, all the down ballot stuff, it's all controlled by these Marxist woke leftists. Right. Because the conservatives aren't paying attention to the local elections. They're only paying attention to the federal elections.
Yeah.
And it's maddening.
It all begins locally, all of it. Matter of fact, I have a saying that I've kind of gotten well known for. We complain about the cockroaches of Washington, but we breed them locally. Stop breeding them.
Yeah. And we need to start having sheriffs start criminal investigations against local and state corrupt public. Okay, stop right there. Okay, right down where it starts, the third line from the bottom on that same paragraph, a healthy balance of power. Do you see where I'm at? A healthy, right there. Yeah, right there. So, yeah, thank you for highlighting that. A healthy balance of power between the states and the federal government will reduce the risk of tyranny and abuse from either front. Folks, when you came onto this show with us today, when you question what's going on in government and how we have a solution, especially a peaceful and effective one, there it is right there. A healthy balance of power between the states and the federal government will reduce the risk of tyranny and abuse from either front. That's one of the most powerful things in this case, because it puts it back on we the people, and it puts it back on the states. We're the ones that are supposed to erect the barriers, not keep going along as long as they pay us. Right. So, all right, keep going. Now, this next one, we'll read the whole thing. It's from Federalist 51.
Okay.
Hence, who's going to read it?
I'll read it. Hence, a double security arises to the rights of people. The different governments will control each other at the same time that each will be controlled by itself.
How many home runs does Scalia have to knock out of the park on this case? This whole decision is just one huge principle after another. So how then do we follow this principle established by the Federalist Papers, and in this case, how do we have a double security arise to the rights of the people? Because the different governments will control each other. And so that is the county commissioners, that's their job. Your county sheriff, your governor, your state legislature, your city council, and what you brought up earlier, your school board.
They're
Sheriff Mack,
supposed to serve as natural checks and balances.
Exactly.
Sheriff Mack, I've got a question for you. And I'm thinking, this is Mack versus the United States. So the Clinton administration's in power. Their Solicitor General is actually in front of the Supreme Court arguing against this, everything that you're saying here.
Yes.
How can he look at himself in the mirror and make the arguments that he had to make?
Because he's paid and he's corrupt and he's representing a corrupt administration. And you'll always find people, especially lawyers, that will take money to lie for whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely a fact. I just can't imagine what arguments he could possibly make. I mean, what's he relying on for that? It would have been a very difficult job.
Well, when we see Stevens's assertion how wrong this was, you'll see how stupid it is. That's the best Stevens could come up with, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So here we have Federalist 51, absolutely knocks it out of the park. Keep going. And just want you to know, we're going to skip over this, but just want you to know that Scalia, wait, right? Commerce Clause. There's been so much said about the Commerce Clause because the Commerce Clause is the only regulatory authority that was ever delegated to the federal government. They have one. Interstate commerce, not inside the state, that's to go outside the state. So if you have a gun manufacturer and they just are staying in their state to distribute those guns, the federal government can do nothing.
Yes.
And should be nothing. But the Commerce Clause, Scalia clarifies that. Let's go to the next one because he clarifies the next one too. The Supremacy Clause. And we just showed a bit about the supremacy. We share the supremacy with the federal government, and just as you alluded to, the states have broad regulatory authority, and the federal government basically has none. So the authority of the states, regulatory authority and other authority, is humongous compared to the very strict and small and limited authority of the federal government, and that's what's clarified in this case. Okay, keep going.
Sheriff, I want to ask is that there are several states out there. Texas, I think, was doing it with the suppressors. I want to say Montana was doing it. I think Arizona was also doing it for a time for just firearms in general. Where if you were a resident of the state, you could buy something regardless of whether it was federally regulated. You could buy it without going through all the federal hullabaloo. As long as you didn't ever take it out of the state. Correct.
Yeah.
But then the federal government came in and sued them. And I think Missouri filed to become a sanctuary state for federal gun policy. And they got sued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that. All right. Keep going. And then I'm going to just give you a quick review of what they said about here again. Scalia is doing EPA. What does the EPA got to do with this? Because he says that they were. Let's look at that one right there. After the Supreme Court, granted certiorari to review the statutory and constitutional validity of the EPA regulations. I just want to clarify these regulations. We're talking about EPA. The government declined even to defend them, and instead rescinded some and conceded the invalidity of those that remained, leading us to vacate the opinions below and remand for consideration of mootness. This is when Brown sued EPA sued Brown. So Scalia is just following his history lesson for all of us in showing us that a lot of what the EPA was doing was unconstitutional way back in the 1970s. So why are they still getting away with all of these unconstitutional acts? Because the states failed to enforce it and to make sure that the EPA mind their own business and stay in their proper lane. And there is no lane for the EPA because there is no delegated power in the Constitution that was given to have an EPA. There's nowhere does that exist. And we have a lot of those. Department of Education is another one, which is now being pretty much gutted.
No.
Or we hope they stop it. Anyway, okay, scroll down, keep going.
It's nice that the EPA is getting clawed back a little bit more. A couple of cases we got heard last year, like reversing the Chevron doctrine and all that. So we're making progress in that direction with this court.
Stop on states are not puppets. This is so good. I tell you, Scalia is funny. In fact, Scalia was pretty funny during the hearing, and that hour hearing, and each side gets 30 minutes, not 30 minutes and 15 seconds, 30 minutes exactly. And man, we went first, and I thought we're lost because they were really playing devil's advocate and really shooting darts. But when the federal government got up, they threw spears at them, and I said, I think we're going to win this. And sure enough, we were in the Supreme Court in December of 1996. The ruling came out the last day. And that's the historical thing of the Supreme Court. They saved the most important cases for last, and ours was the last day, Friday, June 27, 1997. And the CBS News had me in Tucson for a press conference, and they said, you have to know the most important cases were saved for the last day, and yours is coming out Friday, the last day.
I'm sorry. When they're arguing a case in front of the Supreme Court, what is it? You said 30 minutes. What do you get? Like a 10-minute opening statement, and they ask questions. You
don't get anything. You start talking, and when the judges want to interfere or interrupt, they do.
Gotcha.
And they start throwing them, and then your attorney tries to get back on track, and they start throwing more. So, but they usually allowed him to make some quick responses to their questions. But whatever it was, 30 minutes, and you get no more. Okay, so
tell me what you want me to do.
Okay, I really like this. Okay, first they said, as Judge Sneed aptly described it, this is kind of in the middle. You don't need to highlight anything there. Described them as reducing them, the states. The next line, highlight that one too, I guess. Reducing, right there, reducing them to puppets of a ventriloquist Congress. He's talking about the states being reduced to puppets of a ventriloquist Congress. Don't you like that line?
Love that.
It sounds like Alexander Hamilton's desires during the Constitutional Convention.
Yeah.
He wanted to reduce them to basically provinces. The language he used was corporations, that they shouldn't even have any say because his argument was that the states would screw up the union, and it's really the reverse. But
and yeah, I call them, with all the land they own out in the West, that Arizona and Nevada and others are just enclaves of the federal government.
Hey, Ron, can you pull a map up that I texted to you just to show what Sheriff Mack's talking about with the West?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's keep going. I'm going to try to get done. We're only about halfway done. Let's see if we can move on.
I'm actually approaching a moment where I'm going to have to bail out because I've got a meeting with.
Wait! You went too far. You went too far. Okay, right there. So anyway, the next comment I really love from Scalia is he was talking. He shook his finger at the leftist justices, and he said that he couldn't call them stupid or dumb. So he said they're using empty formalistic reasoning of the highest order. That's legalese for saying stupid. Empty formalistic reasoning of the highest order.
It sounds like what they said recently to Katanga Brown.
Yeah, I love Scalia. Now we're getting to what they said about COVID. Now this is 1997, folks, way before COVID. But this is obviously, through our history lesson, we know the tendency of governments to steal and usurp power and to be destructive and corrupt. And this is the answer right here. And I have this memorized, and I suggest everyone memorize this next paragraph. But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. It divides power. No, let's slow down there a minute. The Constitution doesn't protect us from anything. It's a piece of paper.
Right.
The people whose hands it rests in are the ones that defend the Constitution, who defend liberty, who defend the principles upon which our country was founded. That's who protects our Constitution. It's every person in this country. It's every American. It's every governor and every state legislature. And yes, the bottom line, the sheriff standing with their citizens, with their posses, and saying, no more. And it is a peaceful but very powerful process. And that's why I formed the CSPOA, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, because that association is by, for, and of the people, that you will have someone defending you and working with you and standing with you, and you standing beside him in defending the holy cause of liberty that Patrick Henry penned. He used that term. So that, yeah, look at that. That all in red belongs supposedly to the federal government.
Right.
So notice Texas, they told the federal government, keep your hands off our state. But man, look at that. Nevada completely covered. Arizona more than half.
Alaska's
more than half.
Alaska's huge too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Consider that Alaska is basically everything west of almost Texas to California. That's how big it is.
So, all right. Put me back on there with that if you can. Thank you. So let's read that part again. But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. What does that do to COVID? It divides power among sovereigns, and that's a powerful word, and among branches of government, precisely, expressly and precisely, so that we may resist the temptation, resist the evil temptation, to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day. To the crisis of the day, which is exactly what COVID-19 was, and was exactly what they're saying here. Another one will be coming, because that's what government does. They create the crisis and then offer you a solution on a silver platter when you're all so sufficiently scared to death that you'll say, please save us, government, which is exactly what they want to hear from you.
Yeah, Brady, that goes back to your quip about emergency powers, don't it?
It does.
Yeah, and I've told all my classes, it's funny because I've looked. There's no asterisk in the Constitution that says unless there's an emergency. Not one.
Not one.
Well, and it's obvious because the temptation is so great then to manufacture a crisis to seize power. It's the Hegelian dialectic in action in real time.
Yeah.
So.
And on that happy note, I'm going to have to bail out. I have a meeting with a gubernatorial candidate. I don't know if you knew this, Sheriff Mack. I have since moved to the Oregon coast. I don't live in California anymore. I have a friend who said, wow, Oregon, California's got to be pretty bad if Oregon's a better choice. But I got to go. It's been a pleasure, Sheriff Mack. I'm going to get in touch with you because, like I said, I have a friend of mine who's working on a federal land grab, and I think the two of you have a lot in common on that front.
I'd be happy to talk with him.
All right.
All of you. Thank you, brother.
Thanks.
See you soon.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Thanks, Doug.
So scroll down now. So after that most powerful dissertation from Scalia, then we get the federal government may not compel the states to enact or administer a federal regulatory program. This is the order of the court, and it reinforces what we just saw here. But I want to get to a point in this. So keep going. And some of this, we hope that all of you are purchasing these little booklets. We're hoping that all of you purchase these little booklets off our website. Not that we make very much off of these. I have other books, okay, like this one, The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. We make a little money off of that one. So I don't know, it's $9 or $10 off of our website. Every American should have that book in their home. But this Supreme Court case that we've been going over, this you need to be passing out to all your local officials. And you need to be very versed in it when you do. We also want you to become members of the CSPOA posse, of the Constitutional Sheriffs Peace Officers Association posse.
I am a member.
when you go talk, yes, thank you. When you go talk to your sheriff and when you call your sheriff, tell him, I'm a member of the CSPOA and we have some questions we want to talk to you about. And can we meet with you in person? And he'll probably have one of his captains do it or something. But if you live in a smaller community, your sheriff will meet with you and you want to take a few people or invite him to your meeting and then talk to him about this case. And 2 questions. Are you a constitutional sheriff? And how? And when they come to get our guns, what will you do to stop them? So that's a great way to start with your communication, opening communication with your sheriff. So go scroll up just a little bit.
Up or down?
The other way. Right there. Right. No, yeah. Stay on the order of the court. Go down, keep going. Okay. Right there. Now, right. No. Okay. Right there. It matters not. The last line right above Justice Stevens is sending. Yes. Right there. So it matters not whether policy making is involved, and no case-by-case weighing of the burdens or benefits is necessary. Such commands are fundamentally incompatible with our constitutional system of dual sovereignty. That was actually derived from my district court case, the first case. First it goes to district court, then it goes to circuit court, then it goes to Supreme Court. In district court under Judge John Roll, this came up. Because, and this was a powerful, powerful moment. I was on the stand, and that's the only time that the plaintiff sheriffs ever took the stand was in the district court. After that, it's just transcripts and arguing about the transcripts and the points made at the district court. And then obviously at the Supreme Court, it's just kind of a final argument and it's lawyers only. I would have loved to talk
Sheriff,
there.
I'm going to pause you for a second. And only this is important to me because I'm not going to allow this. This is kind of a hypocrite. You write tickets for no license when the Constitution says you can't let you do it. Sir, I apologize, sir or ma'am or whoever you are. You clearly have no idea who you're talking about because you don't know anything about Sheriff Mack's story, and to call him a hypocrite is basically naive because you've never investigated the man. So. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to let that slide.
Well, thank you for that. I don't know what they're talking about because yes, I used to write tickets.
Yeah.
Back before I was converted to the Constitution, and I had to repent. I already said at the beginning, I had to repent of that.
Yeah.
And so, but we can get that's actually some of what he or she brought up is actually another topic for another day.
Sure.
Does the state of Arizona have the authority to license drivers? And,
yes.
and that's a huge topic. And I'm willing to discuss it, but not now. We're talking about the Mack Prince Supreme Court case. And we're just weighing in on that, how powerful of a case this was for all of us. And so let's listen to what the rest of this was about. So no, leave it on that highlighted right there. Yes. And so I'm on the stand and the attorney for the federal government is backing me into a corner that I'm not liking where it's going. And then she saves me. She actually, I've never seen this before in my life. I've been to court hundreds of times, probably over 500 when you take all of them, but in my entire career. But she stopped questioning me and I'm still on the stand and she started testifying herself to the judge. She even turned and said, well, Your Honor, in the first 4 months of the implementation of the Brady Bill background checks, we have denied over 250,000 felons from accessing guns in this country. She actually said that. 250,000 felons from getting handguns in this country. Well, after I finished that, I started investigating what the heck she could possibly be talking about. And none of that was true. Her 250,000 felons were people who had traffic violations that they didn't pay for. And so they were not allowed to get a handgun until they got that taken care of. They weren't felons. There were 4 felons in 4 months, and none of them were even arrested. And so it was a pack of lies. But the judge took care of it. And I was looking at my attorney and said, why aren't you objecting to this? She's testifying. She's giving her own evidence and her statistical analysis. And the judge stopped her. And that's why I'm glad my attorney didn't say anything. And he pointed his finger at her and said, Madam Counselor, do not try to pretend in this courtroom that your statistical analysis somehow equates to constitutionality. Wow. Do you see who we lost that day at the Safeway parking lot? We lost a stalwart justice for freedom. And I would hope and pray that he would have been in the Supreme Court, but his life was cut short. And now scroll up to see Justice Stevens' dissenting opinion. This is absolutely ridiculous. Okay. Now this is for the 4 Democrats on the Supreme Court in 1997. If Congress believes that such a statute will benefit the people of the nation and serve the interest, now get this, and serve the interest of cooperative federalism. Where have you ever heard that before? Cooperative federalism. Everyone knows that federalism means the division of power between the states and the federal government.
Right.
It defines that division, and it defines the powers that both of them have. So cooperative federalism means that they intend for the states to cooperate with the federal government because it's part of who we are. We just cooperate. We cooperate. It's cooperative federalism.
Unless it's immigration.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
Well, that's really a fundamental point. And the comment that Ron responded to earlier, and I think this really does tie into what you're saying, is an understanding of what the 10th Amendment or enumeration doctrine really means. And you can simplify it like this. If the Constitution specifically enumerates the power to the federal government, they can do it. If the federal government if the Constitution doesn't prohibit the states from doing something, they can.
Correct.
And that's the difference. The Constitution is designed to limit the federal government, not the states. So yeah, your state can write you a traffic ticket. They can make that law. If you don't like it, work to change the law or move.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful. Thank you.
I mean,
Wait. Let's analyze this again, though. To make this constitutional, the 4 Democrats are simply saying all that has to happen is that Congress believe that this will help the country. He doesn't quote anything in the Constitution.
No.
He doesn't quote anything in the Federalist Papers. He's not supporting a law. He's just saying we should go along with Congress if they think this will help. If they believe that this will help our country. That's why the dissenting opinion is so ridiculously stupid and ignorant that they should have said nothing. This is the best they could come up with for disagreeing with Scalia. We should go along with Congress if they think this will,
because it feels good.
Yeah.
Basically.
So this is pretty ridiculous. And
it shows a complete understanding of what being a constitutional republic means. You're bound by the written laws of the Constitution. You can't just willy-nilly decide, oh, this feels like we should be able to impose this on you, even though the power is never listed there. That's what they're saying.
Right. So the bottom line on all of this is I put the summary there. And I asked the question, which decision do you want to go by, the Democrats or the Republicans? And that bothered me to no end and still does. It looked like it was political. 5 Republicans sided with me, 4 Democrats sided with the Clinton administration.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want the Supreme Court of the United States to be playing politics and siding with their parties when they're making decisions that affect our nation. Keep your oath. They took the same oath that I did. Keep your oath. Uphold, defend, and enforce the Constitution of the United States. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what I'm supposed to do. Now, folks, this is a key component of all of this. If the Supreme Court of the United States, if Congress, if the state legislatures and governors all go along with unconstitutional acts, does the sheriff, the ultimate protector of the people and the executor of the law in every county in this country except for Alaska, Hawaii, and Connecticut, those 3 states do not have sheriffs. Connecticut voted the office out about 30 years ago. Hawaii and Alaska never established it when they came into the union. Why is a big question. But
that's interesting.
But does the sheriff have any type of lawful or moral responsibility to go along with unconstitutional orders? And does he have to go to court to make that decision correctly? Or does he own his oath of office, and does he own the sovereignty of that office? And does he have an obligation to do just the opposite, to stand against it as a guard of the Constitution and an oath that he swore to in God's name? Does he go along until some court tells him he has to do different? Does the sheriff work for the judicial branch? No, he does not. And just as we saw earlier in this wonderful, beautiful case, hence a double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will control each other. And that's exactly what the Constitution did. Mm-hmm. It divided power, and it brought a system of dual sovereignty and a system that other governments control the one that's out of line.
Shoot. Sorry, guys.
So, well, and that's it. And folks, I now give this case to all of you. Use it. If you want to get these, if you want to look up the case on the internet, and again, it was Cornell University that I saw that did a very, very thorough job of it. Please do, and check that out.
Okay, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions that have kind of things that have happened in recent jurisprudence. With Bruin, the Bruin decision. But first of all, if you guys won the Brady Bill, if you guys won, then why are they still enforcing? I mean, the way I see this is you won, so why are they still enforcing background checks?
Okay, it's called the severability. They can sever whatever parts don't really apply, and as I said earlier, they said that the sheriffs did not have standing on the Second Amendment, and no one else ever sued on that part of this. And so I don't agree with this at all. They should have thrown out the whole thing. And Thomas actually said that it does violate the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. And so, but he didn't bring it up. In fact, Thomas never said a word at the hearing. He never said a word. His opinion later was very powerful, but I'm glad that Scalia was assigned this, and he did an absolute tremendous job. So the background checks have continued, and they have never been challenged that I have seen in any court case regarding the Second Amendment. And the NRA has acquiesced on that. They've said, "Hey, we're not going to get rid of background checks," so they've tried to keep them to a minimum.
Well, shoot, the NRA was as I understand it, the NRA was instrumental in making sure that the background checks went through. And
they've actually written some gun control laws trying to do what I said, trying to keep them to a minimum, but they compromise too much. I actually support GOA and actually worked for GOA for 5 years. Right. Gun Owners of America will not compromise on the Second Amendment.
I refer to them as negotiating rights away. So, and I'm with you. I'm a big GOA fan.
So the severability, the decision went much further than I ever dreamed when it comes to the federalism issues and the power and authority of the states and the power and the authority of the people, which we've seen all sorts of different things, land rights, and it doesn't matter, any right. And that's why we the people working with the sheriff. So folks, I ask all of you to go to our website, become a member of the CSPOA posse. That's $11 a month. Yeah, that's not very much. You're right. But that is how we stay funded. We don't stay funded with sheriffs. I never ask sheriffs to pay any dues. Some of them are, but they've done it on their own. I will not put money in the way of what we really want from sheriffs. What do I really want from sheriffs? That they become members? No. I ask that each of you do that. Every one of you become a member and pay your $11 a month, whatever, a couple of cups of coffee, I don't know. But at the same time, this is just about the only peaceful and effective solution we have left. And your sheriff, what I want from your sheriff is I want your sheriff to keep his oath of office. I want your sheriff to uphold, defend, protect, and preserve the United States Constitution and thereby defend your civil rights. That's what we want.
Ron, you want to let me share the screen? I've got his website up there so people can know where to find it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, thank you. Do that.
There we go.
Yes.
And this is cspoa.org. And you can join the posse on this tab here.
Yep.
$11 a month or $99 a year. You can donate if you're feeling generous.
It's cheaper if you go with the $99, obviously, and do it either way you want. And folks, this is not a contract. It's my word that we will continue to do this work as I've been doing for the last 30, 35 years. And we formed the CSPOA for you, for the people, in 2011. And it's been going great guns ever since. There were over 500 sheriffs in this nation that refused to enforce the COVID-19 mandates. A lot of that came from this case because they knew about this. But that's only about 16, 17% of all the sheriffs in the country. And we need more. And my goal is to raise $3.5 million so that we can have one giant meeting with sheriffs from all over this country in one meeting. Okay, maybe in St. Louis, because that's in the middle of the country. And we will see the power of numbers as they come together and rub shoulders together and become united in the holy cause of liberty. And if we get these sheriffs unified and united in doing these things together, we will take America back tomorrow. And so that's what our goal is. Am I asking all of you to raise that money for me? No, I'm begging you to. And I pray every day that that will happen. But in the meantime, if we don't have that kind of money and it's impossible, then we're trying to get to the right people that do have that kind of money.
Right.
And I hope that one of these times that it'll click with somebody and say, you know what, I know how we can get that. And so, folks, did the Revolutionary War take money? Yes, it did. And Washington got mad at some of the other founders for not providing it. And it nearly cost him the entire war, especially when you consider the Battle of Trenton. Mm-hmm. And he had his ragtag army invade Trenton on Christmas night.
Right.
And folks, yes, I'm sorry, but the freedom movement does take money sometimes. But look at the cost. If we compare $3.5 million to what we're losing every day to corruption and everything else that's happening in our country, it's peanuts compared to what's happening to us and our money and our own. The fruits of our labor belongs to us. And so, folks, I am asking everybody to help with this as much as we can. I can't do this alone. The miracles that went into all of this are just so phenomenal. And I shared some of those with you the last hour and a half. This has been so touching for me to be able to spend this time with you.
Oh,
this case is my life.
Yeah,
this is what I do for full time now. push this case and push freedom and push sheriffs to help you and work with you and defend you. That's what I do every day. I do like 3 or 4 podcasts every day. I did 6 yesterday. I have 3 today. And we do a podcast for the CSPA Posse every Wednesday. It's today at 3:30 Eastern Time, 12:30 Pacific. And hopefully many of you will come to that today. You will be emailed. If you join now, you will be emailed a link to our Posse webinar today. And so we ask each of you to join and be a part of this.
I wanted to ask you, taking the, it's almost a shame that the Bruin case didn't come out before, or the Bruin decision wasn't rendered before your case was. Of course, it couldn't have been because it was like 20 years hence. But still, I'm sure you know what Bruin is, yes?
No.
Okay, so the Bruin decision was United States Pistols and Rifle Association versus State of New York. And or I'm sorry, Bruin versus New York, I think it was, but it was about that was Justice Thomas. He wrote the decision and said that everything if you're going to all decisions that come down from the court, they have to be compared against what the founders originally intended, the original intent of the founding fathers in the Constitution.
Yeah, essentially, what it's done is it's turned a bunch of judges into quasi historians, and what they should have done, just not to interrupt you on, but they should have basically said no, all federal gun laws are unconstitutional.
That's exactly correct.
Well, I agree with that.
Get it right.
I agree with that. I'm still saying that by measuring it against what the founders intended, it takes us in that direction.
Yeah,
we've had some horrible decisions since Bruin came out based on Bruin.
Yeah, no kidding.
And since these judges, they go back there and they say, oh well, once upon a time in California they had this law, so therefore you can have it again, and that's just not the way it's supposed to be.
Right. And one judge actually opined that gun control is now legal and constitutional just because of the many times that there's been gun control laws made.
Exactly.
That they set a precedent that nullified the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
And how stupid can you get? Just because you commit 5,000 crimes does not make the next crime lawful.
Well,
Doug and I did a show when the Bruin decision came out, and we roasted it apart pretty good. I'll have to go back and find that in my archives, but yeah, we agree.
When you mentioned McDonald, I think somebody mentioned McDonald, and McDonald used the 14th Amendment. They said that it was because of the 14th Amendment, the states can't override the Second Amendment, I believe, is what they basically.
There's a couple of things I like in the 14th Amendment.
Sure. Yeah, but the problem is it's
too long. One, it has too much bad in it.
It's 3 amendments crammed into one. It was probably passed illegally, and then the 20th century judges reinterpreted it to make it say stuff that the people who wrote it never intended. But incorporation is not a thing. The Bill of Rights was never supposed to apply to the states.
Right. And what about the 17th Amendment? Somebody brought up earlier. That's one of the worst things they ever did, to take the senators from being controlled by the state legislatures and put them as a political position that's horrible.
Yeah, well, the states, federal senators are now basically over glorified House of Representatives.
Correct.
They don't represent the state government.
So, and the U.S. senators are supposed to be representing the state.
That's correct.
Exactly right. Exactly. The way I say it is, we went from getting local representation to somebody who serves one of 1.5 national political parties, and that's not that is not federalism. That is nationalism.
Exactly. You're not getting any arguments out of me. I mean, we could probably go on.
Well, I need to get going, but I actually wanted to do a commercial real quick.
Go ahead.
This is off of our website, and this is a company that supports CSPOA, and I only sell very few products like Numana Foods. Folks, you should get Numana Foods for your food storage. Very, very good company, 25-year shelf life. So go to our website and look up shop and go to Humana Foods. This is a company that we work for, Body Align. And they're big time. They're on our website. And these I've tried. My wife and I have used these for years. Well, a couple of years anyway. And we didn't know about Body Align. And when we found out that one of our marketing guys for CSPOA owns part of this company, and now CSPOA does. And this is the best thing for pain I've ever had. I even put it, and I've never heard them talk about this, but I even put it on my temple and one back on my neck when I get a bad headache. And I don't get bad headaches very often, but these are little patches that you can put on your lower back. You can put them on your wrist if you're sore wrist, any place at all on your body, ankles, feet, toes, and you just take the patch and you put it like when I get a headache, I'll put it right there. Okay, see that? And then one on the lower part of the neck, just if you're a guy, on the hairline. But anybody can use them. These are for men, women, children, all the time, and they totally help with pain. If any of you have pain and you want a natural, very effective recourse and remedy, go to cspoa.org and go to Body Align and order these. They have other products as well. They have a sleep patch, and the sleep patch doesn't make you go to sleep. It helps you go to sleep and helps you stay asleep. But Body Align on CSPOA, if you go around CSPOA, then we don't get any kickback from it. Okay, so please go through or mention when somehow let them know that I told you about it. But we really believe in this, and this is how we.
They also have really good things for like the radiation stuff you can put on your discs, you can put on your phone, and protect your.
And on my computer right here, I have them, and on my phone, I have these EMF, electronic magnetic field. It protects you. So I have it. I have those on my phone. It's underneath the rubber thing here, but I have them on my computer right here. I have I had two computers going here just to make sure I had backup. But folks, so you want protection from EMF? Get these patches. And you have body pains? Get these patches. You need help sleeping? Get these patches. You need energy? There's some other stuff for that. Folks, we're all in this together, and this is how the CSPOA stays funded. I thank any and all of you who are already members, and I thank those of you who are going to join today. And I have to thank both of you. Thank you.
Oh, there's no reason to thank you. There's no need to thank me. You know,
well, you guys helped set this up, and you guys were the moderators. And I thank both of you for your dedication to the cause of liberty. And it's great. It's great to be companions with you in this great cause.
Amen.
So, it's our pleasure, and it is a privilege.
Yeah, echo that sentiment. Well, Sheriff Mack, thank you for your time today, and thanks, Doug, for showing up when he could. Anytime you want to talk about Constitution, gun rights, and any of that stuff, you are welcome here anytime, any day. There are very few people out there who understand the Second Amendment. The vast majority of the people, and I mean that sincerely, because there's way too many people in the world who think the Second Amendment applies to every state, and it's just all over the United States, and that's not accurate. The Second Amendment is exclusively against the federal government. Each state has its own, is supposed to have its own things, and the 14th Amendment kind of eviscerated that. But I mean, from a constitutional standpoint, I mean, we're so upside down and twisted around that I don't think anybody really knows which way is up.
However, every public official in the state still swears an oath to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution. Right. I don't think the states can violate the Second Amendment.
No, they can't.
Because of
the states can't violate. Well, I believe that when you take an oath of office that like if you're at the sheriff level, you take the oath, you swear to the Constitution of both your state and the federal Constitution. And
Correct.
see, and when I hear people say, "Oh, well, the federal Constitution overrides the state Constitution," I'm like, really?
No,
No. You clearly don't have any idea what you're talking about.
But think of it is almost every state constitution supports the right to keep and bear arms even more powerfully than the Second Amendment does.
That's right.
Yeah, I've actually gone through all 50 state constitutions and looking at their gun language, and it's a really fascinating task to do. But we're gonna start going through the state constitutions on my channel in the near future, and I'll have some guests. Yeah, I'll have some guests. We're also going to do a big roundtable panel on the incorporation of the 14th Amendment, and I may invite you on for that as well.
I would like that because I need to know more about that one.
I've got a couple of really good experts.
I have somebody that I need to connect you with. Also, it's a 14th Amendment guy.
Anyway, guys, thanks again. Thanks so very much.
Sheriff Mack,
this was a great opportunity for me, and it was almost therapeutic because I get to say all these things that have been in my heart for so long, and it's very rare that I get to share this on an entire show like this for an hour and a half. So, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for letting me do this. So.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brady and Sheriff Mack. Thank you again, and we will. Hey, and if you want to come back and do this every so often, as you know, because obviously the audience grows and it reaches different people at different times. So it's all about timing. So anytime you want to do this, like every quarter or 6 months, I'm just say the word.
Let's do it. Thank you so much.
Guys, have a great day.
We'll see you.